I was hoping not to speak tonight, and maybe some of you would wish I hadn't, but I really feel I need to correct a couple of narratives regarding the select board. First of all, several times it's implied that if we keep our current process, that there is basically an arbitrary nature to the final permitting board, the select board, in terms of, in the sense that they can disallow a project, reject a project with no reason. And that's really not how it's ever worked. And there are certainly times where cases will wind up in land court, and if there is actually a total lack of reason, if the permitting agency that has rejected a permit is found to have offered no credible reason at all, that can be overturned. But it's really not an issue. The way things have worked almost all the time in the history of Stockbridge is that in the special permit process, the planning board is an essential component. Even though it's only a recommending body, our tradition has always been that the planning board does take a position. It was very rare for decades that a special permit, especially anything that was major, would come before the planning board, and the planning board would not either recommend or reject, and recommend to the select board no or yes. There are occasions in recent years where they sent a project to the select board without a recommendation, but that was very unusual. And the other thing that almost never happened is it almost never happened that the select board, and that is with the supermajority, with 3 people, did not take the planning board's recommendation. Doesn't mean they might not have added extra conditions or whatever, but if the planning board was recommending that a project go through, that was almost all the time taken in by the select board. And the reason I want to make that point is this argument that the current proposal in terms of an amendment is there because the site review with the planning board goes to expertise as opposed to the relative lack of expertise on the select board's part. Well, really, the system we have right now emphasizes the expertise of the people who are most involved with planning and zoning, and those recommendations are not taken lightly at all by the select board, and they would not be taken lightly by our select board either. Now, part of the confusion in terms of the select board having this total bias against this project and then not wanting anything to go there and not being open to anything. It really evolved, at least in terms of it became more intense, when a resident came in and was upset with members of the select board because they were not going to the open houses that were being sponsored. So I'll just speak for myself here. But before I was even elected, when I knew there was a chance I would be elected, I made a conscious decision not to go to open houses and also not to go to meetings of the neighbors who were opposing the project. That doesn't mean I didn't have a viewpoint, and it doesn't mean that with friends or acquaintances I wouldn't express that in a private way, my either hesitations or support. But what it did mean is that I was trying to maintain a posture of neutrality. And that somehow became translated into me doing something very egregious, that I was not trying to be informed, whereas it would be very hard to not be informed given all the various things that go out in emails among different people, given all the newspaper articles. I certainly would never mind not getting informed in detail about anything I had to make a ruling on. And I think that is also true of the other 2 selectmen. And so it is not true that this proposal is being proposed because of the selectmen not agreeing to speak with them at a specific meeting. Now, whether the developers are getting a sense that at least one negative vote is possibly there, maybe that it is entering into their reasons, and I'm not trying to get into their heads or question their intentions or anything else.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah, well, just, I just want to, I'm just going to finish it. Well, I know, but I think it's important that I...
Well, one more minute, really, seriously.
Okay. You may not even have a problem because I can't remember my train of thought. Well, the only... Yeah, okay, I'll just let it go. But my one last narrative I want to push back against is that the idea that we are in dire straits in terms of our revenue base is actually not accurate. And if you check out the trends in going back many years and in recent years, we've had a very healthy growth, steady growth in our revenue base from all the various improvements people have been making and other buildings and other projects. So I think, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be careful and cautious with our money, but I do think sometimes that narrative is overstated.